There's 2 bank holidays in May. It's great. Cool. Okay, so welcome everyone to the May version of the Dynamics 365 and Power Platform UK virtual user group. I'm your fantabulous host, MCJ, Matt Collins-Jones. But there's enough about me. We have 3 fantastic speakers today, and we're going to go through the agenda. So today's agenda: slight introductions from me, MCJ. My co-hosts are unfortunately not here today. One of them is in another country, and one of them is unfortunately poorly. So it's just me, hence the well-oiled machine comments. One man band tonight, and I can't play the harmonica. So you just have to put up with the rest of me. So slight introductions. I'm going to do my best to try and play some sponsor videos at the start, and that'll go down hopefully well. It's only 3 minutes, so we'll do that. Then after that, we'll get straight into the talks. First talk is Hello World, Goodbye Syntax, Vibe Coding React Apps on Power Platform by Giles and Josh, which is an absolute barn burner. If you've not seen the talk before, these guys, or you don't even know who they are, these guys are experts in this field. You will learn something from these guys today. I'm really looking forward to this. We're gonna have a short break, probably around 7 o'clock, five-ish minutes break, and then we'll get stuck into our second session just after 7, which is building production ready Power Apps, error handling, validation, and resilience by AJ. Again, if you've never met AJ, he's a larger than life character. He is an expert at what he does. The man knows more things than I've forgotten. Or the other way around, I've forgotten more things than he. I don't know, one of those. Either way, he's a legend. He knows what he's talking about, and this is a fantastic session for anyone that is maybe just starting out in Power Apps, starting out in Power Platform, or even the experts that maybe just need that top-up session of like, hey, these features are here. You should probably be using them in your day-to-day. So that is all good. Right, with that, I'm going to quickly. Oh no, what I'm going to do first is thank our sponsors. I'm going to thank DivPacks, Reader Consultant, MCM, MS CRM add-ons, Kanos, Mhance, Docs42, Mazik Global, Cosmo Partner Solutions, and For Good Tech. Without them, we couldn't run events like this. If you're not familiar with our user group, we also have in-person user groups. We have evening events such as this one, all around the UK, the likes of Birmingham, London, all sorts of Newcastle. North-south divide with that one, and then best of both worlds for options. Without these sponsors, we could not run these events. They help us pay for the infrastructure that facilitates these things. It helps pay for the back end, like everything else. We are all volunteers. It is all not for profit. But so without these sponsors, we could not do what we do. So we have to do a big thank you to them. I'm just going to stop sharing for 1 second and see if I can share this and have it all work seamlessly as if I am a well-trained individual. Share. And this is the bit where I'm here, like share with audio. And that's probably not shared with audio. Let's try once more. Once more with feeling. Include sound. There we go. 3-minute video. Hopefully this will all work really well.
Coming. It's already here. And we're the ones building it. At Mazik Global, just imagine change, we create it. Since 2004, we've turned bold ideas into real-world impact. Where technology meets purpose, extraordinary things happen. As a proud Microsoft Solutions partner, we design and deliver intelligent solutions across Dynamics 365, Power Platform, and AI. In healthcare, with Mazik Care and Copilot capabilities, we enable smart smarter decisions and better patient outcomes. In digital government, we drive trust and transparency. And through Magic NFP, we help non-profits amplify their mission and impact. With global delivery centers in India and Pakistan, we bring world-class talent at scale. This is Magic Global, where innovation meets purpose, where the future is already being built.
Right. This is all us trying something new. Previously, we didn't have videos and things to play with the UG, so I do appreciate that there may have been some lag, and if our streamer extraordinaire was here, it would have all done seamlessly. But again, one-man band tonight, so I do appreciate people bearing with me today about this. Let's just bring up the slides very quickly. So we've gone through our sponsors, which we are really grateful for. If you're looking to get involved with a user group, if you're looking to start your own or help us, there's a lot of organization that goes on behind the scenes in terms of like setting up groups, coordinating speakers, all these sorts of things. Please do get involved. There's a link right there. If anyone is interested, just let me know and I can ping it into the chat a little bit later. Again, if you'd like to get involved in speaking and you do want to appear at a user group such as this or one of our other regional user groups or our all-day ones, there's a QR code there, or you can go to d365ppug.com/speak to find all of the information regarding how to submit a talk or register interest to submit and talk. With that, I'm going to stop talking. I'm going to hand it over to two of the experts in this field, so Charlie and Josh, and we're going to talk about Hello World, Goodbye Syntax, Vibe Code and React on apps on Power Platform. Take it away so I can stop talking, please.
Thanks, Matt. I'll just get my screen shared. I'm in the browser today, so hopefully that works nicely. Is that all good?
Good.
All right, Josh, do you want to take control and then take it away?
Yep, I will take control. Bear with me. I can't take control, so you'll just have to skip through the slides. That's
No
okay.
worries. All good. Yeah.
Good. Right, I'll take it away. Hello, everyone. Good evening. Hope you're all well. Yeah, some nice intros there, so thank you for that. We're going to be talking about vibe coding on Power Platform this evening with our talk, Hello World, Goodbye Syntax. So really excited to have you all on this journey. We've already had a thank you for the sponsors, but I think we just want to say thank you as well, because without them, don't make these events possible. So thank you to all of them on the screen there for making it possible. Who are we? If you don't know us, my name's Josh. I'm a senior solution designer. I work at Virgin Money. Feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. I own a blog as well, and I'm also co-YouTuber, co-presenter our YouTube channel Power Squared. And Charles, do you want to give an intro to yourself?
Yeah. For those who don't know me, my name's Charles Sexton, or you can also call me Charlie. I'm a Power Platform solution architect at Capgemini, and have been working in governance a lot, but also working in code apps a lot recently, and absolutely loving it. And yeah, same thing as with Josh. Feel free to connect with me, and I have a blog there. So yeah.
Thank you. So what we're covering today then, so we're going to do things a bit differently in that. We're going to build as we go, which is really exciting. We're looking forward to seeing if this is going to work. It's a first for us, so bear with us. But we're going to showcase what we're building. We're going to show what the end result is first, effectively. And then we'll do a bit of a deep dive as we go. What is a code app? What's under the hood? What makes them up? How do they actually fit into Power Platform? And then how does AI come into this as well? Because I think when people think code apps, they think code apps, AI, very kind of synonymous with each other. But there's a bit more to it than just letting an AI tool kind of take over. And then finally, we'll showcase the app live.
I am. There's kind of like meeting on that. I'm just kind of like it's all to do with Power Platforms and stuff like that. This is my life now. So
Thanks, Richard.
yeah. So I've just got it on in the background. So but I just picked up your message actually, and just I'll give you a call about boots. So
There you go. Sorry,
I
Richard, I had
muted him for
to-
you guys. Sorry.
All good. Well, yeah. So yeah, nice surprise interjection there. But yeah. So if we move on after, from the agenda, so the app that we're building, Charles, over to you.
Thanks, Josh. Yeah, so as Josh said, we're going to do something really different today in that we are going to, for the most part, stay within our slide deck, and we're going to actually build the app from within our slide deck. So we're going to do something quite novel. But what I need to do before we actually start the build is just set the scene so that you can understand what we're doing and what we've already set up. So we have a fake company called Novara, and for Novara, they want an app in order to vote on what they're going to have for lunch that day. And so you can see that we've got some AI generated images of some meals there. We're providing all of those meals to our agent. So you can see it says 8 lunch images in our project files. We're also giving the coding agent the Novara logo, which is an SVG. And we're giving it brand guidelines, which is an HTML document. It's very similar to what you can see on the right-hand side. It's just saying like, here is the logo, here are the colors, and it's pretty basic. And then we also have a Claude.md file. And this is because we need to give some instructions to Claude Code to direct it where it's likely to go wrong. Now, why would we need to do that in the first place? Well, because for working with code apps, the models that we're going to be using, they haven't been trained on code apps documentation. They were trained prior to code apps being introduced, or rather the latest documentation being introduced. So it means that they don't have that information available to them. So they're likely to go awry in certain places. So that's why we've got this Claude.md file, which we'll open here, just to show you a summary of what we're doing with it. So essentially, we're just doing a few things. It's like probably 50 lines of code. We're telling it things like the user is already authenticated. If we didn't have that, it would generate an app that has things like sign out links or asking for an email address for the vote, that kind of thing. We're giving it some information about saving Dataverse records. So this is not necessarily something to do with code apps itself. This is Dataverse and how Dataverse works. But in our testing, we found that it tries to send through who created the record, when of course that's automatically generated. So it's just giving it some tips as far as saving Dataverse records and also creating Dataverse records, that kind of thing. And then we were also saying something about image handling, which is something where coding agents will basically always trip up when it comes to code apps, because code apps work in a specific way. And as it says there, you want to bundle the images as inline data URLs. That's not what a coding app will try, a coding agent will try to do by default when it's building it. So we're just giving it those few instructions to basically say, look, this is the direction to go in. Don't mess up on these things, please. But of course, it is AI, and this is a live demo. And I have run through this demo, I think 6 times. Every single time it's different. So there's a very good chance that it will go wrong. And if it does, then we'll see what we can do about that. But the point of this is just to show that you can get something generated. Like in my tests, it's been anywhere between just over 5 minutes to under 10 minutes if it's working nicely. So really quickly to get from having just your images and your brand guidelines all the way through to having your Dataverse tables created and seeded with the meals and your app actually built and deployed and ready to share, which is really impressive. So as I said, we're going to build it in the slides. So we actually have a live terminal in front of us, and this is exciting. I find this such a cool concept. We're embedding our terminal inside of the slides, inside of our browser, because that's where we're running the slides. So it means that I can do all of the usual terminal things inside of here, which is good fun. So I can do things like, you can see that we're in the C drive code and then Office Lunch folder. So if I do ls to list what's inside of that folder, you can see that we have a docs folder, which is what I showed you, where the brand guidelines and the assets are, those images. And then we have the claude.md file. So you can see that this is as I said it was in that previous slide. So then from this point, we'll probably want to do things like check that we're actually logged into the right environment. So we've got the pack CLI already installed. So we can do pack env who, which is the Power Platform CLI environment, and then who. So who is the environment? What's the environment? So if I run that, I'm just double checking that we are logged into our Office Lunch environment, which we are. So you can see the friendly name, Office Lunch, and then the org URL is officelunch.crm11.dynamics.com. So that's all good. We're happy with that. So now what we can do is we can open up Claude. And I'm going to do something dangerous, which is dangerously skip permissions, because I don't want it to keep asking me for permission for things. Now, don't do this. We're just doing it for the demo. I would never do this outside of a demo, because I want to know when it wants to do something. I want to be asked for permission.
We like to live dangerously anyway, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. So that's opened up Claude Code. So you can see that I'm using Haiku 4.5 as my model. We'll talk more about the models later on, but if you already know what Haiku 4.5 is, that's showing you that we're using a very cheap and quick model for this. Now, the next thing I need to do is I need to get the prompt for this. So I should already have it in my clipboard, but just in case I don't, I'm just grabbing that. And then I need to paste it into the terminal. So this is the prompt that we're using, which originally was much simpler than this, but as I've gone through the 6 different demos, I've figured out that it needs a few more instructions. In an ideal world, you wouldn't just give it a prompt, you'd actually plan out all of your features, you would scope the app, you would do a proper planning process. We don't have the time for that today. So instead, we're just giving it this bullet point list of things. So we're saying create a code app for employees, users to vote on what to have for lunch. Voting is for the current day if it's before 12 p.m. and for the following day on or after 12 p.m. All 8 meals are available every day because I generated 8 photos for meals. Each user has 1 vote that they can change until the cutoff time. Use Dataverse to store the meals and votes, because if I didn't say that, it would come back to me saying, where do you want to store this? Dataverse is good. We've already got brand guidelines here. We've got a logo here. We've got meal images here. So I'm just signposting to those files and folders. And then I'm saying to use the existing directory for the app. So one of the ways that it might trip up is if I just send this without that sentence, it will go, oh, you've already got files in here. Should I do it here or should I do it in a subfolder? By me saying that, it shouldn't ask that. I'm just telling it what the app is called, because when we provision a Power App, a code app, we have to give it a display name. And then saying which environment ID it is and which environment URL it is, because it's going to need that in order to, once it's built the app, to then push it into the environment. And something that you wouldn't normally do is say, don't ask me any questions, just build the app, because you do want it to ask questions. You don't want any ambiguity to just mean that your agent goes off and goes, well, I'll pick something between 1 and 3 and that'll do. You really don't want that. But I'm saying this just for this because we need it to start working for us.
This shows why you had to test it 6 times as well, doesn't it?
Yeah, exactly. So each time needing to add another sentence because there's something that's not quite right. Whereas if we had that plan from the start, it wouldn't come up with all of these questions because we would have already covered everything. So with that said, we've got our live terminal there. Let's run it and fingers crossed that this all goes according to plan this time. So it's now using Haiku 4.7 is Haiku 4.7? No, Haiku's 4.5. And then it's already called Claude Opus 4.7. And the reason for that is because the plugin dictates which models get called for different things. So we're not going to watch the terminal. Instead, we're going to allow the terminal to run and we're going to continue on with the presentation. But as we're going through the different content slides, we will have the terminal available to view. And if something happens, you can see it happen. But before that, I must introduce the next section, which is under the hood of code apps. And so, Josh, if you're happy to take it away.
Yep. So some really interesting techie things going on there, which appreciate if you've not looked at code apps or any of this stuff, you're maybe wondering what's actually going on. So let's dive into that a bit more. So what actually are code apps in the first place? Because we haven't explained that yet. And they're web apps. So they are effectively a web app that lives in Power Platform. And that's really good because all these limitations, like if you've developed a Canvas app before, you'll know there's accessibility issues, there's lots of workarounds that you need to do, or if you've used model-driven apps, you've maybe got frustrated with the interface. Code apps doesn't have any of that. You can bypass all of those issues and create whatever you want. So they're really, really flexible. And they are a really compelling alternative to Canvas apps or model-driven apps as a result of that. Downside, if you see it as that, as licensing, they require a premium license to work. You won't be able to use them otherwise. But you know, this is just another reason why the premium license can be valuable, because you're getting another product as part of that license bundle. So yeah, I think we famously said, or Charles said in one of our videos, that Canvas apps are dead, and they're not. It's just you know, the scene has shifted a little bit in terms of how we view the platform in the kind of AI agentic era. So it's really interesting to see how code apps are fitting into that. And I see that we've got our first kind of terminal hold up, I guess. Charles, do you want to explain that quickly before we move on?
Yeah, it's recognized that it needs to create 2 data first tables. And even though we said don't ask any questions, it's asking questions. So it's just asking, should we create it or do we want to chat about it? And we don't care about this app, so we're just creating them and then we can move on.
Perfect. So yeah, I mentioned that code apps are web apps. So for anyone that isn't a pro dev or hasn't dabbled in web development, I haven't in the past, full disclosure. But there's a few things that make up a web app, namely a few of the main things. First one being HTML. It's a markup language that defines what you'll see on screen. Every website you see is generally made up of HTML, as is a code app. You will probably write bits and pieces of this, or you'll get AI to do it for you with a code app. So it doesn't need to be scary as it seems, because we've got AI to do that for us as well. Next up, we've got I think it's CSS next. Yep, perfect. And CSS is cascading style sheets. So these are how you style your websites or your code apps. And that's no different than you can see some of that code there, how a Canvas app would work, with properties, padding or border radiuses, all of that good stuff is built into CSS. So that's going to control the visual style and make your apps look beautiful, which is great. Next up, we've got JavaScript. Yes, JavaScript next. This is how behavior runs on a code app. So JavaScript is probably one of the most popular languages out there. And, if you click a button and you want it to do something, it's JavaScript generally that's going to do that. Using APIs, updating pages, that's all done via JavaScript behavior as well. So like if you on select on a button in a Canvas app, it's the same sort of thing there. And then next up we have TypeScript, which is also another really popular language. It's just an extension of JavaScript in a way, I would say, in that it just adds types to JavaScript. So what we mean by that is, if you're going to create a variable and it should be a number, then you just have to define that in the TypeScript language first and foremost. Code apps use TypeScript by default, so it's something you'll quickly get familiar with when you start building code apps or using AI to help you build code apps. So something to keep in the back pocket and learn a bit more about if you want to go a bit more deeper on how things are made. And then over to you, Giles.
Thanks, Josh. Yeah, so those are basically the building blocks of any website or web app. So it's not even necessarily a code app. Anytime you go to a website, even the slides you're looking at today are built using HTML, CSS, JavaScript, and TypeScript. So yeah, the tool chain that we're going to use and that will typically be used for a code app is basically like the group of things that you would be using in order to get you from just having that JavaScript web app on your machine to being able to actually work with it and build it and understand how it's working, and then finally to get it deployed. So there are a few things in the tool chain. I'm going to explain exactly what they are because it's very confusing if you've never worked with these things before and you just keep seeing these brand new terms and names. So Node.js is basically the thing that lets JavaScript run for you. So it lets JavaScript run outside of the browser. So for us, working on a laptop or working on our PC means that we can run JavaScript and then we can develop our code app, of course. As it says there, the finished app still runs in the browser, but Node.js is for the building, so it's not for the users. NPM is something that comes with Node.js, and it's a package manager. So you can think of it like, let's say that you're using VS Code and you've got extensions in VS Code, or maybe you're thinking about your browser and you've got extensions in there. It's a similar concept. So you can get these packages for JavaScript and you can install them into your project. So let's say that I'm working on a code app and I want to have charts in my code app. Well, I could try and code those charts from scratch, or I could go to NPM and find a charting library and then bring that package in. So it means that you've then got this wealth of a community open to you with all of these different packages, and it's in the millions. I don't know how many packages there are, but literally millions. So if you think about that in comparison to Canvas app land or model-driven app land, it's much, much bigger, much more robust and much more mature. So then there are JavaScript frameworks. So code apps with the kind of starter app that Microsoft give you, that uses React. But you can basically bring any JavaScript front-end framework you want to the party. My favorite one is Svelte. Now, why would I choose Svelte over React? Well, there are a few reasons for that. One is that the code is easier to read. Another one is that the code is less verbose. So it means that if you're working with a coding agent, it's reading code, it's writing less code, it's using less tokens, it costs less money. Svelte is faster because it doesn't need to compile. So Svelte is written in pure JavaScript essentially, and it compiles itself in real time. And then it when you want to deploy it, compiles down into JavaScript, whereas React will still have an extra abstraction layer on top of it. So Svelte is typically going to be faster. So yeah, different JavaScript frameworks, and they all do pretty much the same kind of thing. Just to give a bit of background as to React and what's that about. It was created by Facebook, so now Meta. They created it because they wanted a JavaScript library, it was called, in order to have interactivity on Facebook to make it easier. And React was the first one to really pick up steam. And so that's why React is now the most popular, and it's the one that Microsoft are using basically everywhere. But Vue.js and Svelte or SvelteKit and Angular are all also really popular options. So it's worthwhile having a look at the different options and seeing what you think. For an example, the slide that you're looking at right now is using a framework that uses Vue.js. So you can use any type and you won't necessarily know when you're loading the app what you're using. They're all very good. I can see that our app has finished building at 7 minutes 53 seconds. We will look at it later. But there you go, 7 minutes and 53 seconds. That's really cool. So Vite is another thing. So Vite is the build tool, and Vite is amazing. Before Vite, it was a much worse developer experience. So what Vite does for us is it's going to build all of the files that we have into a production version of it. Now, what does it do with that? Well, one of the things you can do is when you're running it locally on your laptop or your PC, it means that you can have a live preview. So let's say you change a file, you click on save, you get hot reload, it updates instantly. And that's something that Vite provides. And let's say that you want to then package up your code app and then push it into Power Apps. Well, when you do that build process with Vite, it does some amazing things, like it compresses the files for you so they're smaller and your app is going to run faster. Not only that, but it will actually look at your CSS and your JavaScript, and if there's something you're not using, it's going to strip that out of it. So it's going to make it even faster. Vite is an amazing tool, and yeah, love that. And you can see how fast it is from the picture in the bottom right hand corner. So Josh, where does Power Platform come into all of this? We talked about the tech.
Yeah, so lots of web development things going on there, but that's not the full picture with Code Apps, is it? There's actually more to it in that Code Apps live within Power Platform. That's their home, and effectively what we're doing here is we're bringing our code, we're bringing the Code App, all of those frameworks, CSS, HTML, bundling it all together, building it, but is living in the Power Platform ecosystem. And that's going to give us a number of benefits, but a couple of important ones being access to Dataverse, governance controls, and the full connector library that Power Platform gives you. So that's what that means is you're not having to call web APIs directly through a code app. You're actually calling it through a connector, which means that you've got that security built in from the ground up, which makes things really kind of nice because you no longer have to, or you don't have to worry about security as much. Or if you're trying to adopt code apps, your security teams are going to be less worried about it because you're just building on tried and tested technology that's already probably part of security frameworks, which is great. So yeah, nice kind of reason why code apps, or why you should use code apps in the platform there.
If I can add to that as well, like because coding is now so accessible through coding agents, it's very quick and easy to build a web app or a website. But the most difficult part now is actually the bit once you've built it. It's like, how do I connect to a database? How do I get this deployed? If I need to do authentication, how do I do that? These are really tricky and potentially really dangerous things, but Power Platform just gives all of that to us. So that's where it really shines.
Exactly, that security and scalability is really nice. And yeah, just on that, obviously you mentioned connectors, but just to kind of mention that again is the ability to call those connectors directly within the code app. There's specific code that is available in the docs that you can use to call that. There's skills which we'll talk about shortly as well, which helps with that too within the AI front. But everything is secure, it's sandboxed in Power Platform, so you can't just go and do a fetch HTTP API call and it works, or use Axios, and Axios got breached recently as well. So, again, we're just hammering home the fact that these are secure from the ground up, using Power Platform tooling to do that, which is really nice.
And yeah, as far as data policies are concerned, so like Josh showed before, we're going through connectors, we're not going through API calls. Well, if we're going through connectors, then our data policies apply, right? So it means that we've got governance already built in. All of those data loss prevention policies, or now called data policies, that apply to Canvas apps, apply to code apps. It's exactly the same thing. So that gives us that security, that governance, and hopefully makes IT and the directors of the organization feel way more comfortable about using code apps when it seems like it's a new technology. In reality, it's not really new technology. It's web apps that we've had around for ages and Power Platform that we've had around for many years now. And if you do want to access something like an API that doesn't have a connector, well, create a custom connector, add that to the data policy, and then you're off. Nice. And then also the thing to bear in mind is that if you're using a connector and it's not working, do check that it's not blocked by a data policy, because that could be something. If you're not surfacing those error messages, that might be happening. And that's when you'd want to look at, like, how do I debug a code app? I open up my browser's console and look in there. That's something for another time, but something to bear in mind. And then content security policy is yet another way of protecting the organization, protecting the tenant against potential infiltration, potential issues. So content security policy is not a new thing. It's been around for many, many years in web development, and it's also not a new thing for Power Apps. So content security policy was already something that we could use with model-driven apps when you're using JavaScript web resources, and with Canvas apps when you're using PCF components. So those are code components, and a content security policy could be applied to those. What does a content security policy actually do? Well, it blocks things. It basically means that, like, as far as code apps is concerned, you have that content security policy turned on by default. You can't make any external calls. So it means that you can't load a Google font by hot linking to it. You can't load an image by hot linking to it. You can't send an API request to any random website to get data from it. So it's protecting your organization there.
A favor. What is flipping?
Someone needs to mute there.
Yeah.
All right,
so,
Josh.
How does AI fit into this? And I think we've kind of alluded to that and shown that already, how AI kind of helps with this, but it's not as clear cut as just start, coding. There's a few things that we need to be aware of to help with this. First thing being MCP servers, so model context protocol servers, and that effectively gives your AI tool a brain. It allows it to, rather than have to go out to the web and look up documentations, it can just reference that server and know kind of what to do. And there's some nice Power Platform specific ones available, most notably Dataverse, in that you can create tables, records, schemas, seed data using it, which is really nice. There's some caveats though that they still need to address. Doesn't play well with solutions, publisher prefixes, that sort of thing. But overall, it's shows a lot of promise and really kind of takes building in an automated way to that next level. GitHub's another one that exists. So if you're dealing with, pushing code to a repository, or you want to open a pull request, again, MCP server can handle all of that natively, which is really nice. And the last one is Playwright. Well, there's more than that, but the last one we'll call it here is Playwright. And that's effectively giving your AI a set of eyes. So, up until this point, we're just giving it text or code, and it doesn't actually see what's going on. Playwright gives it those eyes so that it can tell what's actually on the screen, and that can be really good for driving things like accessibility checks and performance checks. So something to keep in mind. I think we've got another slide on that, but yeah, really good to know. And generally, you can look online for MCP servers. There's generally a list where you can add them. So but the real big one, which we haven't actually mentioned at all up until now, is the Code Apps plugin. And this makes everything really hands-off when it comes to creating code apps, because all it is a collection of skills it's giving your AI all of the knowledge and information that it now needs to know to build a code app. Charles mentioned earlier that code apps are quite new. AI isn't trained on it, so it's quite difficult sometimes to get it to understand that if you open up an AI chat and ask it about code apps, half the time it will come back and start telling you about PCF components, and that's not great. So the code app plugin addresses that by giving it all of the information it needs, and it gives some really nice slash commands as well, which you can use to start building a code app really quickly. The most notable one being create code app. If you run that, it's going to then just basically tell you or ask all the questions it needs so it can get going and build the code app. There's some really nice ones there as well, like list connections. I think it's fairly self-explanatory around what connections are available in your environment, adding Dataverse tables, Office 365 connectors, and also deploying, building and pushing it to Power Platform itself. It just handles all of that in a really quick and easy way. So this is your cheat code when it comes to creating code apps. If you've not looked at it, then it's definitely something you need to look at the documentation and experiment with, because it will make life really easy.
Yeah, it means that, say, if you wanted to push your code app from your hard drive up into the cloud, into Power Apps, you would have to write npx power-apps push. But trying to remember that kind of thing is a bit annoying, right? So all you have to do if you have the code apps plugin installed is say, can you deploy this for me? And it will just do it.
And then we've got model management, which feeds into this quite extensively. The plugin deals with this fairly automatically, but it's worth noting that, if you're using AI tooling, let's just use Claude as an example. You don't have to use Opus, which is the biggest and best model all the time for all tasks. Different models excel at different things. So what we tend to do is say, we'll actually use Opus for all the planning, all the heavy lifting. But once you've got that plan in place, let's just use Haiku like we've done here tonight and actually build the app. And it means that you're going to be able to build it really quickly and cheaper as well, which is really nice. So different models do different things. It's worth knowing where they excel and where the kind of drawbacks are for each. Like, probably wouldn't want to use Haiku or an older GPT model for planning when Opus or GPT 5.6 now is really good at that plan stage.
So without further ado, it's time to look at this app. It's been done for a while, hasn't it? But we haven't looked at it yet. So let's see what's actually happened. So we'll go into make.powerapps.com. We're in the right environment. First things first, let's have a look at the tables and check that they are created. So we have a meal table and a vote table, and we can click into those, and then we should have some results, which we do. So that's good. And then we can go to apps, and then we have our new app here, Novara Lunch Vote. So it's been deployed. Does it actually work? That's the big question. So here's the app. I'll zoom in a bit on it. So we've got Novara Lunch Vote. We're voting for Thursday. I'm logged in, so it recognizes that. And then it's got all of the meals here from Dataverse. And then hopefully if I click on one to vote, yeah, nice. It's hopefully voted. So then if we go over to Dataverse, we can actually check if we got a vote for it, which we didn't. So it looks like there's a potential bug here. So you can open up the network tools for your browser, and then where it has this $ batch, this is where you can see where something's gone wrong. So if you can see this, it's very small. I can zoom in a bit. So it says there, error, bad request, error in query syntax. So AI did something wrong there as far as that's concerned. So that's something where if we had the time for it, we would then go back to our Claude Code terminal, or we could use any other agent. It doesn't matter at all. But if we've got the plugin installed, we need to use the coding agent where the plugin's installed. So by default, the Code Apps plugin is only available for Claude Code and for GitHub Copilot CLI, so the command line interface to terminal. But you can extract it yourself if you want to and use it elsewhere, which is something that Josh and I have done before. But yeah, essentially you'd go back to your agent and you would say that this is not working, give as much detail as you can, and generally it's going to fix it in one loop. You don't need to go beyond that. But hopefully this shows you that you can get up and running very quickly, and this isn't far off being something that you can use.
I think that's really important to kind of drum home in that this took 7 minutes to create. Like you can't even create a Canvas app like that quick, right? It's crazy.
Oh no, it was, yeah, almost 8 minutes, sorry.
Like that's phenomenal. And yeah, you can then start tweaking and doing more with this and make it perfect. But in 8 minutes, you've got a functional app that you could demo or showcase to people. I think that in itself, you know, it's easy to forget that, but that is really impressive.
Yeah, and part of the reason why it was as quick as it was is because it was using the cheaper and quicker models for the things where it didn't need more intelligence. However, maybe there's a chance that if we had used a bit more intelligence in some aspects of it, like, for example, the planning, we didn't really do any planning, we would have probably had an app that looked better and didn't have bugs at the end of it, or a bug that we found. So yeah, it's things to bear in mind.
And yeah, so we've also got some resources, and the resources we feel like if you want to learn more about code apps, this is where you need to go. First is the documentation, and yeah, the code apps documentation is really well put together. There's a lot to take in there, but there's generally everything that you need to know on there. And well done for finding the aka.ms link, by the way. And then lastly,
that was actually our friend ChatGPT.
Oh, awesome. Well, thank you, ChatGPT. And lastly is our Power Squared YouTube channel. We put out videos every week on code apps. I think there's not a topic that we haven't covered about code apps. So yeah, check that out as well if you're more of a kind of learn by watching videos type. You might find something useful there. So yeah.
And if there's time, we are very happy to answer questions. I can see that there have been questions in the chat. I see Victor's question about why is Claude preferred to GitHub Copilot. I think it isn't necessarily preferred. It's a tricky one because I'm seeing people jumping around a lot. Like even myself, I went from Google Anti-Gravity earlier in the year because they were very generous with their token limits, to Claude Code. And then I had been with Claude Code until recently, and I've swapped over to Codex, which is from OpenAI. So that's the ChatGPT version. And GPT 5.5, in my opinion, is just as good as Opus 4.7. They're good at different things as well. So I honestly think that whatever coding agent you choose, whichever harness, so whether it's Claude, whether it's Codex, Cursor, Anti-Gravity, GitHub Copilot, there are so many of them. Whichever one you choose, you'll be able to get really good results from it nowadays. So I don't think that's necessarily going to dictate the quality. And yeah, why is Claude preferred? Because Opus 4.5, I think, yeah, Opus 4.5 came out at the end of November, and that was far and away better than anything else. And Claude Code was the best harness at the same time. So those two things together meant that Claude Code was the absolute best for several months, up until recently, I'd say, when now with GPT 5.5 and Codex, OpenAI, I believe, have caught up with Anthropic. So yeah. And the other side as well, I should actually mention with GitHub Copilot, is that they've changed their pricing strategy recently, which is going to push more people away from it because it's now more expensive. So that's something else to bear in mind. But yeah, if anyone has any more questions, we're happy to answer them.
I had a quick question. Is it possible to build a harness in Power Apps and Power Coding? Is that something possible? Or
to build
is
a
it
harness like a Claude Code harness, that kind of thing? Or
yeah,
what?
yeah, like to build like an agent, an app built around like an LLM to make it do things. Is that possible in apps coding?
Yeah, of course. There's even a coding agent called Pi, which is a really lightweight one, which is basically like a lightweight Claude code, so you can customize it loads to make it how you want it to be. So rather than actually building from scratch yourself, you could use Pi and just customize it. But yeah, I mean, the world is your oyster when it comes to this stuff. You can do literally anything.
And in terms of, privacy and data protection, where would I source the LLM from? Like local, or is it through the Microsoft's, some platform, or?
For helping you with coding or for your app integrating with AI?
For the app that I'll build around the LLM, like the harness that. What you've mentioned before would be like external or within the Power Platform?
So as far as like data residency and things like that are concerned, the different companies have different positions on it. Like with Anthropic, so with the Claude models, those ones are going to be using US servers unless you have a special agreement with Anthropic. Whereas if you're using other models, then you can potentially get servers in the UK that will be used, or Europe, wherever you're located, of course.
I see. Thank you.
Yeah, go ahead, Gaurav.
Yeah. Hi, Giles. Hi, Josh. So, Giles, with this code apps, so if you're building a complex app and that has so many journeys, user journeys in it, and so I'm more talking about the life cycle of the app. If you have to change those journeys and change those interactions and everything, how to make sure that is it possible to do this with code apps, all those changes, upgrade or whatever, and how to convince the leadership in our technology team that whatever changes or upgradations which it is doing, it is not affecting other areas in the app?
Mm-hmm. Well, the way that we would always build is as we're building things, we get AI to also generate tests and then make sure that those tests pass. And those tests can be built in whichever way you prefer to do it. So you can do test-driven development. So you create the test first and then the code that ultimately finally passes that test. Or you can do it at the same time or do the test afterwards. You can also test with things like Playwright, like we mentioned earlier. So with Playwright, you can actually get AI to open up a browser and click around and type in the browser to follow the exact steps that you'd expect to happen. And you can make sure that those steps have happened. So it means that once you've got all of these tests set up, if you change a part of your application, you can then run the tests again. And then if you've broken something somewhere, that test will break.
Right.
But that will be down to test coverage, of course. Like, have you tested 50% of your app, or have you tested 100% of your app? It's that kind of thing. So if there's something you haven't tested that you've broken, you won't ever know about it.
Yeah, okay, so that makes sense. So means a lot more focus on the testing side, because when a human developer is making any changes, so we know that where he has changed, where he hasn't, means which parts have been touched or not. But with agents, I think it would be more focus on the test plans and all those things.
Well, you'll still, in an ideal world, be using Git, so like GitHub or Azure DevOps. And when you're doing that pull request, everything is still tied to your user account. So you have the audit trail, so you know who's done what.
It's definitely more traceable than something like Canvas apps, where it's difficult to see because you'll have all of the Git history, because you'll be pushing after every Get feature, for example, that you want to implement. So you can revert and do all of this branching as well. All of this stuff forms part of this, which is really nice.
Yeah, so the key really with that side of things is make sure you use Azure DevOps or GitHub in order to, so repositories in order to store your code, which is a new concept for people who've worked with Canvas apps and model-driven apps who haven't ever touched on that side of things. So if it is a new concept for any of you, then it's something to learn about. And you can always just ask AI, like, tell me about this thing, and question it, find out information that way.
Yeah, means we have been using DevOps, but for Canvas apps, it with every change it will change so many lines of code. It's not easy to.
Whereas with a code app, it's different. So every line of code is actually something that has changed something.
Right.
It's not just loads of cloudy information that doesn't help you.
Right. Thanks, Charles and Josh.
Thank you, Victor.
Yes, my own question is regarding, would you advise what we refer to as the citizen developers now to go these routes in generating application. This seems